You can go ahead and record.
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
very good. All right, so I was just saying that if you've got a cushion like this, a flat, high dense foam cushion, you can put it in a nice cushion cover and keep that on the floor. And then when your knees come down to the floor, they land on the cushion rather than the bare floor or the carpet. And it will help to cushion your knees. And when you're doing accumulations, 50, 100 or more prostrations, this will be very effective for you. So, and then I've got the wood blocks that I explained last week. These slabs like this, and especially on carpet, are very, very useful. If you're on a hard floor, instead of using the wood blocks, if you've got some good gloves, you can put those down, or you can put down some kind of a nice cloth or something, but something to help you glide along the floor. So we're going to begin by doing our three prostrations to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So Om, Ah, Hum, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. So doing a 5-point prostration is better. You can stay on your knees. You can come down like this. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. The body, speech, and mind. Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay. Okay. So now we begin with the introduction. For the benefit of all sentient beings, the most gracious Buddha Shakyamuni spoke the Dharma through the sutras and tantras. The 5 profound paths of Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa are the essence of the Buddha's teachings, which enable one to attain enlightenment even in one lifetime. However, to practice the path of Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa, one must be fully convinced of the 4 ways of turning the mind, or the 4 ordinary foundations. The 4 ways of turning the mind are the basis for the successful practice of any of the yanas. Then one practices the 4 extraordinary foundations, or the Vajrayana Ngöndro, to purify the negative karma and obscurations of the mind, speech, and body, and to develop virtues. The great 12th century Tibetan saint Lord Jigden Sumgun, the second Nagarjuna, said, "The Ngöndro is even more important than the higher practices. One must truly understand and practice the simple yet profound foundational teachings before one begins the higher teachings." Anybody have any questions about the introduction? Okay, then we begin with the altruistic motivation. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Dagla dang waje pe dra no pa je pe ge Tarpa dang tam she ken pe bar du jo bar je pa tam she ki so je pe. Manam kadam yam pe sam chen tam she de wa dang den. Drug now dang drel nur du la na me pa yang dag pa zog pe zhang zhu brin po she do pa zha. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. De she du sang ma ge gi ba du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she ba du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. The Long Refuge Prayer. All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the take refuge in the glorious kind Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the source of the 84. I'll start over again, sorry. All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious kind Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teachings, and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sangha. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. And we do the Tibet, beginning on page 4. Nam ke tadam yam pe sem chen tam she chok shu du sam gi de shin sek pa tam she ki ku. Ko song yong tong yong ten chun lei tam she ki no word pa. Joki pom po ton cha ga chu ta che jone pa pe ge dun tam she gi na dan. Dren san sa wa danger par je pe pal dan lama dam pa nam la kyab su chi o. Yedam kil gorgi la sok nam la kyab su chi o. Sangye chom den de nam la kyab su chi o. Dampe cho nam la kyab su chi o. Pape ge dun nam la kyab su chi o. Pavo ka jo cho kyung song me song yeshe gi cheng dang dem pa nam la kyab su chi o. Cultivating the Mind of Enlightenment, page 7. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. until I attain the heart of enlightenment. I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Shangshu Ling Por Chi Ki Bar Sangye Nam La Kyab Su Chi Chodang Shangshu Sampa Yi Soklang De Shin Kyab Su Chi Jita Nongyi De Shegi Shangshu Tugni Ki Padang Shangshu Sampe La Pala De Dagrim Shin E Patar De Shindro La Pandandu Shangshu Samni Ki Gishing De Shindu Ni La Pala Rinpa Shindu La Pa Ji O. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soki Chodam La Shangshu Baidu Dagni Kapsu Chi Dagi Jin Soki Pe Sonamgi Drola Penshir Sangye Jupasho. May all mothers, sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mothers, sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesem centam she dewa dang dewe gudang dempar jorchi. Dugnal dang dunal gi gudang drawar jorchi. Dugnal me pe dewa dang mi drawar jorchi. Nay ring jack dang ni dang drawe dang namla ne pa Georgie. Page 11, the seven limb prayer. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, requesting, and praying for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Shagsa wadang cho ching sa padang, Jesu yi rang kol sing so wa yi, ge wa jung se da gi ji sagpa, tam se zog pe shang zhub chir no. And now the 4 ways of turning the mind. So we do this in English. So these are the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma: precious human life, impermanence, karma, cause and result, and the suffering of samsara. So we begin with the first. Each one we do a contemplation at the end. Oh, this kind of leisure and endowment is supremely difficult to obtain. When we obtain this body, which is easily lost, do not waste it meaninglessly, but rather use it to attain the ultimate liberation, joyous result. Contemplate the meaning of precious human life. You may reread this. Mind wanders, bring it back to the recitation. Read this again. You have a precious human life. Okay, the second of the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma is impermanence. Number 2, the nature of all phenomena is impermanence. Death is a certainty to all who are born. Death can descend any time, like a drop of morning dew on a blade of grass. Quick, it is time to make effort for the essence of the Dharma. Contemplate the meaning of impermanence. The mind wanders, bring it back to the prayer. Okay, the third is karma, cause, and result. The fruit of one's positive karma is happiness. Suffering is the fruit of negative karma. The inexorable karmic causation is the mode of abiding of all dharmas. Henceforth, practice the dharma by distinguishing between what should be practiced and what should be given up. Contemplate the meaning of karma, which is action, the cause of that karma, and the result of that karma. Your mind wanders, just bring it back to the prayer. Now we go to the next, number 4, on page 15. This is the suffering of samsara. Samsara, the ocean of suffering that we are in the midst of. We're trying to liberate ourselves from this ocean of suffering to that of the atmosphere above, nirvana, peace. So we recite this prayer. In the 3 lower realms, and even in the 3 higher ones, there is not an instant of absolute happiness. I will avoid the root cause of my samsaric existence by practicing the excellent path of peace to enlightenment. Contemplate on the meaning of the suffering of samsara. And when your mind wanders, just bring it back to the prayer. however many times you need to. All right, now we visualize the protection fence, the Vajra fence, with the Dakinis standing shoulder to shoulder, facing inward at the heart center, and we recite their names through the Sanskrit alphabet mantra on page 16. Om, a a, I I, u, ri ri, li li, e, o, ang a, kaka gaga na, zaza na, tata da na, tata da na, papa baba ma, yawalawa, sa, ka, saha, sriha. Om, a a, I, u, ri ri, li li, e, o, ang a, kaka gagana, zazana, tata dadana, tata dadana, papa babama, yawalawa, sa, ka, saha, kriya, soha. Om, a a, I, ri ri, li li, e, o, ang a, kaka gagana, zazana, tata dadana, papa babama, yawalawa, sa, kaha, kriya, soha. Then the mantra of interdependent origination, and 3 times in the Sanskrit and once in the English. Om Yadharma Hetu Prabhava Hetu Takan Tadagato Heawa Tatata Takansa Yonarada Evamwadi Ma Shamaniye Soha. Om Yadharma Hetu Prabhava Hetu Takan Tadagato Heawa Tatata Takansa Yonarada Evamwadi Ma Shamaniye Soha. Om Yadharma Hetu Prabhava Hetu Takan Tadagato Hail Watatata Takansa Yonarada Evam Ma Shamani Soha. All phenomena arise from causes. Those causes have been taught by the Tathagatas. The cessation too has been proclaimed by the great ascetic, the Shramaniye. Soha. So be it. Now the 100-syllable purification mantra of Vajrasattva to prepare ourselves for the practice, to confess all the negative deeds, all the negative things that we thought of, said, did, to purify our mind in order to continue the practice. We recite in English one time on page 19, and recite the Sanskrit 3 times on page 18. Om Vajrasattva Samaya, help to protect my vow, to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the 4 joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realization of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sitsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Saratada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha Om Bajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sitsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Saratada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha Om Bajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Bajra Sattva Tenopa Dristadredo Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Supo Kayo Me Bhava Anuraktu Me Bhava Sarasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sitsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Saratada Gata Bajra Mame Munsa Bajri Bhava Mahasamaya Satwaha. Now the increasing mantras. Om Sambar Sambar Bhimanasara Mahazamba Hung. 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 Om Sambar Sambar Bhimanasar Mahazamba Hung. Arising from a defiled mind, be reborn into great wisdom. Om Smar Smar Bhimanaskar Mahazamba Hung Pe. Om Smar Smar Bhimanaskar Mahazamba Hung Pe. Om Smar Smar Bhimanaskar Mahazamba Hung Pe. Om smar smar bimanaskar ma zambu 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 hung pe. Arising from defiled lives, remember and purify the flower of wisdom. Om sambar sambar Mahazambu Hung Pe. 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 Arising, great holy wisdom, purify this life. The Mala blessing. Om Richiramana Prarataya Hong Pe. 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 The enlightened body, speech, and mind of the precious Dharma protectors, whose mirror-like wisdom is the door to purification. Om Re Pabanarti Shvari Hong. 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 The body, speech, and mind of pure love is the ultimate wisdom. Om Ah Hong, 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 Om Ah Hong. Om Ah Hong, 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 Om Ah Hong Okay. Any comments or questions before we begin the actual practice? Okay. The benefits of taking refuge. If the merit of taking refuge in the triple gem could manifest in form, the whole universe could not contain it. Even though attempting to describe the infinite benefits of practicing refuge is like attempting to empty the ocean with a teaspoon, there are 8 great benefits as explained in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. One becomes a Buddhist. It becomes the basis of all the precepts and vows. It exhausts all previous non-virtuous deeds. It protects one from obstacles created by humans and non-human. One accomplishes all one wishes. One gathers a great amount of merit. One will not fall into the lower realms. One attains Buddhahood swiftly. Refuge practice is the essence of all other practices. Therefore, one always should emphasize this practice. It has inconceivable beneficial effects. Through this practice, one can achieve the fearless state. Now, with one pointed mind, take refuge in the three jewels. We recite, meditate the surroundings as inseparable from a Buddha field. In the space in front of me is a lion throne on which are a lotus, sun, and moon disk seat, in the center of which sits the kind root lama in the form of Vajradhara with the 7 characteristics. Blue in color, 2 arms, holding a Vajra and bell crossed at the heart, and gracefully sitting in the Vajra position. Adorned by the silken robes and various precious jewel ornaments, and surrounded by all the lineage lamas. In front of the lion throne is the Yidam Chakra Samvara, the male and female deities and aspects in union, whose manifestation is simultaneously appearance and emptiness. At the right side of the throne is the assembly of the Buddhas of the 3 times, possessing all the auspicious signs of a Buddha, together with the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate kalpa. Behind the throne is the Prajnaparamita, proclaiming the relative and ultimate meaning of the 3 yanas. To the left of the throne is the assembly of the compassionate bodhisattvas, surrounded by the Sangha of the 3 yanas. Around the base of the throne are the Dharmapalas, an ocean of guardians gathered like clouds. We recite the refuge prayer. Buddhas, Dharmas, Sanghas, Yidams, and Dharma protectors, to these supreme objects of refuge, for protection from the hordes of suffering of samsara, we all migrators go for refuge until enlightenment is attained. Buddhas, Dharma, Sanghas, Yidams, and Dharma protectors, to these supreme objects of refuge, for protection from the hordes of suffering of samsara, we all migrators go for refuge until enlightenment is attained. Sangye chosok yidam chokyong che, kab chog nam la dak sok drowan kun, si pe jik chog nam naga le nyong chir, Shangju mato bardu kapsu chi. I rejoice when all sentient beings are happy and free from the samsaric suffering and swiftly attain ultimate Buddhahood. For this purpose, from now on until I achieve enlightenment, I will follow the path to the ultimate goal. I rejoice when all sentient beings are happy and free from the samsaric suffering and swiftly attain ultimate Buddhahood. For this purpose, from now on until I achieve enlightenment, I will follow in the path of the supreme goal. Drokunde den dognel draldang, nor du la me topar da Yahweh. De chir den ne changshu mato bar, ne pe don chog lama jog parja. Now we recite the refuge prayer. We'll recite it once in English and twice in the Tibet, and then we'll begin to do the prostrations. We take refuge in the kind root lama and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Transcend Sawa Danger Parje Pe Palden Lama Dampa Namla Kyabsu Chio Yedam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam La Kapsu Chio. Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kapsu Chio. Dampe Cho Nam La Kapsu Chio. Pape Ge Dun Nam La Kapsu Chio. Pavo Kajo Cho Kyong Song Me Song Yeshe Gi Cheng Dang Dempa Namla Kapsu Chio. Dren San Sawa Danger Pa Je Pe Pal Dan Lama Dampa Namla Kapsu Chio. Yedam Kil Gorgi La Sok Namla Kapsu Chio. Sange Chom Den De Nam La Kapsu Chio. Dampe Cho Nam La Kapsu Chio. Pape Ge Dun Nam La Kapsu Chio. Pavo Kadro Cho Kyong Song Me Song Yeshe Gi Cheng Dang Dempa Nam La Kapsu Chio. Now we can do the prostrations. Switch cameras. We go for refuge to the glorious Holy Lama, together with the kind root and lineage Lama. We take refuge in we take refuge in the deities. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Tangas. We take refuge in all the noble Kakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities, in the mandalas of the Yidam. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities, in the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Chun San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pal Dan Lama Dan Pa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yedam Kil Gor Gi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Dampe Cho Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pape Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Wo Ka Jo Cho Kyung Song Me Song Yeshe Gi Cheng Den Den Pa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pao Dan La Ma Dan Pa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yedam Kil Gor Gi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Dampe Cho Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pape Ge Dun Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa wo ka jojo kyo mei song yeshe yi cheng den den pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Jun sen za wa dan gur pa jay pei pao den la ma dam pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Ye dam kyo gor gi la sok nam lai kab su chi yo. Dam pe cho nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa pe ge du nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa wo ka jojo kyo mei song yeshe yi cheng den den pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Jun sen za wa dan gur pa jay pei pao den la ma dam pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Ye dam kyo gor gi la sok nam lai kab su chi yo. San ge chom den de nam lai kab su chi yo. Dam pe cho nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa pe ge du nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa wo ka jojo kyo mei shung yeshe yi cheng den den pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Jun sen sa wa dan gur pa jay pei pao den la ma dam pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Ye dam kyo gor gi la sok nam lai kab su chi yo. San ge chom den de nam lai kab su chi yo. Dam pe cho nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa pe ge du nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa wo ka jojo kyo mei shong yeshe yi cheng den den pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Jun sen za wa dan gur pa jay pei pao dan la ma dam pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Ye dam kyo gor gi la sok nam lai kab su chi yo. San ge chom den de nam lai kab su chi yo. Dam pe cho nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa pe ge du nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa wo ka jojo kyo mei song yeshe yi cheng den den pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Jun sen za wa dan gur pa jay pei pao dan la ma dam pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Ye dam kyo gor gi la sok nam lai kab su chi yo. San ge chom den de nam lai kab su chi yo. Dam pe cho nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa pe ge du nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa wo ka jojo kyo mei shung yeshe yi cheng den den pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Jun sen za wa dan gur pa jay pei pao dan la ma dam pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Ye da ye kyo gor gi la sok nam lai kab su chi yo. San ge chom den de nam lai kab su chi yo. Dam pe cho nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa pe ge du nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa wo ka jojo kyo mei shung yeshe yi cheng den den pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Jun sen za wa dan gur pa jay pei pao dan la ma dam pa nam lai kab su chi yo. Ye dam kyo gor gi la sok nam lai kab su chi yo. San ge chom den de nam lai kab su chi yo. Dam pe cho nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa pe ge du nam lai kab su chi yo. Pa wo ka jojo kyo mei sung yeshe yi cheng den den pa nam lai kab su chi yo. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge to all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge to the perfect Dharma. We take refuge to the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root lama and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root lama and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Junsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Paldan Lama Dampa Nam Lai Kapsu Chio Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam Lai Kapsu Chio Sange Chom Dende Nam Lai Kapsu Chio Dampe Chom Nam Lai Kapsu Chio Mbapege Dun Nam Lai Kapsu Chio Pawoka Jojo Gyo Me Sung Yashegi Cheng Den Ba Nam Lai Kapsu Chio Junsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Paldan Lama Dampa Nam Lai Kapsu Chio Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam La Kapsu Chio Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kapsu Chio Dampe Chom Nam La Kapsu Chio Papege Dun Nam La Kapsu Chio Pawoka Jojo Gyo Me Sung Yeshegi Jeng Den Ba Nam La Kapsu Chio Junsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Baldan Lama Damba Nam La Kapsu Chio Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam La Kapsu Chio Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kapsu Chio Dampe Chom Nam La Kapsu Chio Papege Dun Nam La Kapsu Chio Pawoka Jojo Gyo Me Sung Yeshegi Jeng Den Ba Nam La Kapsu Chio Junsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Baldan Lama Damba Nam La Kapsu Chio Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam La Kapsu Chio Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kapsu Chio Dampe Chom Nam La Kapsu Chio Papege Dun Nam La Kapsu Chio Pawoka Jojo Gyo Me Sung Yeshegi Jeng Den Ba Nam La Kapsu Chio Junsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Baldan Lama Damba Nam La Kapsu Chio Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam La Kapsu Chio Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kapsu Chio Dampe Chom Nam La Kapsu Chio Papege Dun Nam La Kapsu Chio Pawoka Jojo Gyo Me Sung Yeshegi Jeng Den Ba Nam La Kapsu Chio Junsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Baldan Lama Damba Nam La Kapsu Chio Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam La Kapsu Chio Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kapsu Chio Dampe Chom Nam La Kapsu Chio Papege Dun Nam La Kapsu Chio Pawoka Jojo Gyo Me Sung Yeshegi Jeng Den Ba Nam La Kapsu Chio Junsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Baldan Lama Damba Nam La Kapsu Chio Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam La Kapsu Chio Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kapsu Chio Dampe Chom Nam La Kapsu Chio Papege Dun Nam La Kapsu Chio Pawoka Jojo Gyo Me Sung Yeshegi Cheng Den Ba Nam La Kapsu Chio. You can take a break, come back to your seat. Now visualize that all the deities on the lineage tree have all dissolved into light and dissolve into Vajradhara in the center of the tree and dissolve into you, into your heart center. Collect your breath, rest. Now visualize that you continue the prostrations and we'll concentrate on reciting the mantras. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Drinsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Pao Dan Lama Dampa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Dampe Chom Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pape Ge Dun Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pa Woka Jocho Kyo Me Song Yeshegi Jeng Den Dempa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Jun San Za Wa Danger Parje Pe Pao Dan Lama Dampa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Yidam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Dampe Chom Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pape Ge Dun Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pa Woka Jo Cho Kyo Me Shong Yashegi Jeng Den Dempa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Jun San Za Wa Danger Parje Pe Pao Dan Lama Dampa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Yidam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Dampe Chom Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pape Ge Dun Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pa Woka Jo Cho Kyo Me Shong Yeshegi Jeng Den Dempa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Jun San Za Wa Danger Parje Pe Pao Dan Lama Dampa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Yidam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Dampe Jo Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pape Ge Dun Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pa Woka Jo Cho Kyo Me Shong Yeshegi Jeng Den Dempa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Jun San Za Wa Danger Parje Pe Pao Dan Lama Dampa Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Yidam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Sange Chom Dende Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Dampe Chom Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pape Ge Dun Nam La Kab Su Chi Yo Pa Woka Jojo Kome Shong Yasheki Jing Den Den Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Jun San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dan Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Yedam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Chom Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Du Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Woka Jojo Kyo Me Shong Yashegi Jeng Den Den Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Jun San Sa Wa Dan Gur Pa Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dan Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Yedam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Dam Sangye Chom Den De Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Chom Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Du Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Woka Jojo Kyo Me Shong Yashegi Jeng Den Den Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Jun San Sa Wa Dan Gur Pa Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dan Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Yedam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Chom Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Du Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Woka Jojo Kyo Me Shong Yashegi Jeng Den Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Jun San Sa Wa Dan Gur Pa Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dan Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Yedam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Chom Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Du Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Woka Jojo Kyo Me Shong Yashegi Jeng Den Den Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Jun San Sa Wa Dan Gur Pa Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dan Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Chom Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Du Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Woka Jojo Kyo Me Shong Yashegi Jeng Den Den Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Jun San Sa Wa Dan Gur Pa Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dan Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Yedam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Chom Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Du Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Woka Jojo Kyo Me Shong Yashegi Jeng Den Den Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Justin Sa Wa Dan Gur Pa Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dan Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Yedam Kyo Gorgi La Sok Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Chom Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Du Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O Jojo Kyo Me Shong Yashegi Jeng Den Den Ba Nam Lai Kap Su Chi O We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Trinsen za wa dan gur barje be bao dan lama dan ba nam la kab su chi o yidam kyo gorgi la sok nam la kab su chi o sange jom den de nam la kab su chi o dam pe to nam la kab su chi o pa pe ge du nam la kab su chi o pa wo ka jo jo kyo me shong ya she gi jeng den den ba nam la kab su chi o jun san za wa dan gur barje be bao dan lama dan ba nam like Absujio, Yadam Kilgorgi, La Sog Nam like Absujio, Sange Jom Dende Nam like Absujio, Dampe Jo Nam like Absujio, Pepe Du Nam like Absujio, Pawoka Jojo Gomejong Yashegi, Jeng Demba Nam like Absujio, Transcends all Wadangur Barje Pe Paldan Lama Damba Nam like Absujio, Yadam Kilgorgi, La Sog Nam like Absujio, Sange Jom Dende Nam like Absujio, Dampe Jo Nam like Absujio, Papege Du Nam like Absujio, Pawoka Jojo Kyo Meishong Yeshegi Jeng Dendamba Nam like Absujio, Jinsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Paldan Lama Damba Nam like Absujio, Yudam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam like Absujio, Sange Jom Dende Nam like Absujio, Dampe Jo Nam like Absujio, Pepe Du Nam like Absujio, Pawoka Jojo Yo Meishong Yeshegi Jeng Dendamba Nam like Absujio, Jinsan Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Paldan Lama Damba Nam like Absujio, Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Nam like Absujio, Sange Jom Dende Nam like Absujio, Dampe Jo Nam like Absujio, Pepe Du Nam like Absujio, Pawoka Jojo Yo Meishong Yeshegi Jeng Dendamba Nam like Absujio, Junsen Zawa Dangur Parje Pe Paldan Lama Damba Nam like Kapsuchio, Yidam Kilgorgi, La Sok Nam like Kapsuchio, Sange Jom Dende Nam like Kapsuchio, Dampejo Nam like Kapsuchio, Papege Du Nam like Kapsuchio, Pawoka Jojo Gomeshong Yeshegi Jeng Dendamba Nam like Kapsuchio. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale and hold it. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale and hold it. Breathe in. Out. Breathe in. Out. Breathe in very deeply and hold it. Out and hold it. Stay relaxed, breathe normal. Visualize all the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the Yidam deities, all dissolving into light, dissolving into Vajradhara in the center, dissolving into white light, dissolving into you through the crown of your head, into your heart center. Visualize Vajradhara, the primordial Buddha, in your heart center. Rest in that peace. Maintain that peace. Mind wanders, bring it back to the dissolution, the lineage tree, dissolving into light, dissolving into Vajradhara, dissolving into your heart through your crown. Clear light. Radiating in all directions. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale and hold it. Inhale through both nostrils. Bring the breath all the way down 4 inches below the navel. Expand the belly and hold the breath. Exhale, squeeze the belly, forcing all the stale, negative, dark air out, and hold the empty breath. Breathe in. Exhale. Keep the body relaxed. Breathe in. Exhale. Stay relaxed. Breathe normal. Open your eyes. We'll take a short break. We'll take a 20-minute break. Come back at 10 minutes to the hour. Right now it's 10:30 our time. Thank you back. Thank you for everybody coming back. We're going to continue the practice now. So we'll start by reciting the refuge prayer once again, in 3 times in the English, and then 3 times in the Tibet, and then we'll do 21 prostrations, and then come back to our seats and continue reciting the mantra. So this will help develop your sense of being able to take breaks, create a rhythm within yourself, how you recite these in the English, you recite them in the Tibetan and so on. And slowly you get comfortable in any combination in which you wish to do these. It's important to know the meaning, and that's why we do it in the English, but it's also very good to do it in the Tibetan because the Tibetan language is based on the Sanskrit. And the Buddha indeed taught in the Sanskrit language. So there's this vibration that we are harmonizing with that has never gone away. So we're becoming in union with that. So we begin on page 30, reciting in English the refuge prayer. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Drin Sen Sa Wa Dangur Par Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dampa Namla Kab Su Chi O Ye Dam Kil Gorgi La Sok Namla Kab Su Chi O Sangye Chom Dende Namla Kab Su Chi O Dam Pe Cho Namla Kab Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Dun Namla Kab Su Chi O Pa Wo Ka Jo Cho Kyung Mei Song Yashe Gi Cheng Dang Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dren San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pa Dan La Ma Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Ye Dam Kil Gor Gi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Cho Nam La Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Dun Nam La Kap Su Chi O Pa Wo Ka Jo Cho Kyung Mei Song Yashe Gi Cheng Dang Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dren San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pao Dan La Ma Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Ye Dam Kil Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Cho Nam La Kap Su Chi O Pa Wo Ka Jo Cho Kyung Mei Song Yashe Gi Cheng Dang Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O. Now 21 prostrations. Dren San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pao Dan La Ma Dan Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Yo Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chom Den De Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Cho Nam La Kap Su Chi O Pa Wo Ka Jo Cho Kyung Mei Song Yashe Gi Cheng Dang Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dren San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pao Dan La Ma Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Ye Dam Kil Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chong Den De Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Cho Nam La Kap Su Chi O Pa Wo Ka Jo Cho Kyung Mei Song Yashe Gi Cheng Dang Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dren San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pao Dan La Ma Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Ye Dam Kil Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chong Den De Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Cho Nam La Kap Su Chi O Pa Pe Ge Dun Nam La Kap Su Chi O Pa Wo Ka Jo Cho Kyung Mei Song Yashe Gi Cheng Den Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dren San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pao Dan La Ma Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Ye Dam Kil Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chi O Sangye Chong Den De Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dam Pe Cho Nam La Kap Su Chi O Pa Wo Ka Jo Cho Kyung Mei Song Yashe Gi Cheng Den Den Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Dren San Sa Wa Dan Gur Par Je Pe Pao Dan Lama Dam Pa Nam La Kap Su Chi O Ye Dam Kil Gorgi La Sok Nam La Kap Su Chi Sangye Jom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yampe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me. Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Denpa. Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Che Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa. Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Then Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Deng Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Che Pe Pa Ben Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sangye Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me. Chung Ye She Gi Cheng Den Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Wa Den Gurpa. Che Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sangye Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me. Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Deng Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Che Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sangye Chom Dende Nam La Kap. Then Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me. Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Deng Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Che Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sangye Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Then Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me. Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Deng Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Che Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sangye Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Then Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Deng Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. If you want to continue doing your prostrations, that's fine. But I think we did 21 by now. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Je Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sangye Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Then Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Deng Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Je Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sangye Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Then Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Deng Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Je Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sangye Chom Dende Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Then Pe Jo Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pepe Ge Du Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Pa Woka Jo Che Kyo Me Chung Ye She Gi Jeng Deng Denpa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Chun San Sa Wa Den Gurpa. Je Pe Pa Den Lama. Dampa Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Yidam Gilgor Gila Sok Nam La Kap Su Chiyo. Sange chom dende nam la kapsu chio. Dempe cho nam la kapsu chio. Pepe ge du nam la kapsu chio. Ba woka jo chukyo me shung ye shegi cheng deng dempa nam la kapsu chio. Chun san sa wa den gurpar jepe pao dan lama dampa nam la kapsu chio. Yedam kilgor gi la sog nam la kapsu chio. Sange chom dende nam la kapsu chio. Dampe cho nam la kapsu chio. Pepe ge du nam la kapsu chio. Ba woka jo chukyo me shung ye shegi cheng deng dempa nam la kapsu chio. We take refuge in the kind root lama and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Okay, we can take our seats. Collect our breath. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Stay relaxed. Collect your breath. Breathe at your own pace. And feel the vibration within your body from having done the recitations, from having done the prostrations. You can feel your body vibrating. Harmonize that vibration with the birthless and deathless vibration, the continuum that penetrates and permeates phenomenal nature. That emanates from the Dharmakaya, is realized in the Sambhogakaya, and takes place in the Dharmakaya, in the Nirmanakaya, the emanation body. The lineage tree dissolves into light. The lineage lamas, the Buddhas, the Prajnaparamita texts, the bodhisattvas, the Yidam deities, the protectors, the dakinis, all dissolving into light, and dissolve into Vajradhara in the center of the tree, who dissolves into a clear light that enters our heart center through the crown of our head. We maintain the meditation. The mind wanders, just bring it back to the visualization, bring it back to the vibration you feel in your body. We'll have a 10-minute dissolution meditation. The objects of refuge dissolve into the main figure, and he dissolves into your crown. Kyabyo Kornam Sowodan Dayang Wardu Sune Rang La Tempagyo. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Stay relaxed. Open your eyes if you like. I'm going to share with you something now, something a little more special. Comes from the, oops, just one moment, please. It comes from the Samadhi Raja Sutra, the king of samadhis. Right now, your mind maybe you had a glimpse of that samadhi. Maybe you're resting in that samadhi now. We have that samadhi experience, that mind, that open mind during these practices. And we can cultivate that samadhi to remain with us as post-meditation. We take that samadhi with us when we get up off the cushion and we go about our everyday business. So the instruction on this is a samadhi, and within that, in chapter 13 of this King of Samadhi Sutra, is the teaching of the samadhi. So you don't have to take notes on this. I can send it to you if you'd like me to. I can email it to you. But this is very, very profound. So I'm going to recite it. It's not long. Take about 5 or 10 minutes. The teaching of the samadhi. Young man, what is the teaching of samadhi? It is the true nature of phenomena. It is equality. It is the absence of inequality. It is devoid of notions. It is devoid of concepts. It is devoid of creation. It is devoid of arising. It is devoid of production. It is devoid of cessation. It is the termination of notions, concepts, and assumptions. It is devoid of objects for the mind. It is devoid of focus of the mind. It is the termination of designations. It is the termination of concepts from analysis. It is the termination of desire, anger, and ignorance. It is without a limited or a limitless focus of the mind. It is the termination of any focus of the mind. It is the knowledge of the nature of the skandhas, of the dhatus, and the ayatanas. It is the state of accomplishing the field of activity. It is the performance of the conduct of mindfulness, understanding, comprehension, conscience, and stability. It is the level of freedom from corruptions. It is the level of peace. It is the termination of all conceptual elaborations. It is the training of the bodhisattva. It is the field of activity of the Tathagata. It is the perfection of all good qualities. Young man, this is what the teaching of the samadhi is said to be. Bodhisattva mahasattvas, who are established in the teaching of samadhi, become inseparable with samadhi. Their minds become free from delusion, and they become endowed with great compassion, and they accomplish the benefit of countless beings. Samadhi, Zen, the revealed equality of the nature of all phenomena. Just rest in that for a moment. Okay, so now we go back to our book. We go back to page 33. And we visualize the protection circle, the Vajra fence, now with the Dakinis facing outwards, shoulder to shoulder, standing shoulder to shoulder. And they are both protecting the inner heart center, but more important, they are allowing those who approach the center, the heart center, to help them to purify, to give them blessings. So we recite the names of the 30 Dakinis. Oma, a, I, o, v, le, o, ang, a, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yawalawa, sa, saha, kriya, soha. Oma, a, I, o, v, le, o, ang, a, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yawalawa, sa, saha, kriya, soha. Oma, a, I, o, v, le, o, ang, a, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yawalawa, sa, saha, kriya, soha. Om Yadharma Hetu Prabhava Hetu Takan Tathagato Heawa Tatata Takanso Yonarada Evam Mad Shamaniye Soha. Mantra of interdependent origination, the bottom of page 33. Om Yadharma Hetu Prabhava Hetu Takan Tathagato Heawa Tatata Takanso Yonarada Evam Mahashamaniye Soha. Om Yadharma Hetu Tathagato Heawa Tatata Takansa Yunarada Evam Mahashamaniye Soha. And we repeat the 100-syllable mantra 3 times. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Danopa Justa Dredo Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anuraktu Mebawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuru Hung Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tada Gata Bajra Vame Mansa Bajri Baba Maha Samaya Satvaha Om Bajra Sattva Samaya Manu Palaya Bajra Sattva Tenopa Justa Jedo Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anu Raktu Mebawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuru Hung Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tadagata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Baba Maha Samaya Satwaha Om Bajra Satwa Samaya Manu Palaya Bajra Satwa Tanopa Justa Jedo Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anu Raktu Mebawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sutsa Me Sitsan Shriya Kuru Hung Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sara Tadagata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Baba Maha Samaya Satwaha. On page 36, 35, and 36, the practice, the mantra for multiplying, the mantras for multiplying the practices. Teata Pensadriva Avobodhanaya Soha. 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 This is it. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the five families and the three times, who have destroyed all defilements, lead to equipoise of the enlightened mind. Om Ru Ru Da Ru Muki Muki Soha. 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 The enlightened body, speech, and mind of the peaceful and wrathful deities is Buddha. Om Dai Dai Bendai Soha. 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 The body, speech, and mind of the Buddha is the cause for enlightenment of all sentient beings. Om Hanubara Hridaya Soha. 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 The bliss and strength in the heart center of the Buddha is equipoise. Om Ah Hong, 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 Om Ah Hong. Om 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 The italics at the bottom of page 36. Visualize with faith the root Lama is present in the sky in front, surrounded by assemblies of Yidam deities and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Take a moment, close your eyes, and visualize Vajradhara, surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Yidam deities, in the sky in front. Radiating clear light to all beings. All right. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Is the when you were reading from the sutra, I found myself getting very emotional hearing it hearing it read, and for some reason the language of it too, of like when you were saying like young man, like and telling him about it, at least just how it hit me with where my mind's at been currently, and having you read it as well as someone who's my teachers also of like an older generation, before me, um, and talking about the state of that samadhi. Um, I don't know, and I think just because I've been like kind of in experiencing some like this depression or something recently, and is making me think too of like the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, which sometimes I'll write or recite or recite. Um, and this isn't going to be the exact quotes, but it was something like where he says, you know, um, something where like the suffering or the suffering of samsara, it's like the death of a child in a dream. And then it's like, something similar to like how exhausting it is to take diluted appearances to be real. And just thinking about like just the way my mind's just been torturing me recently, and torturing's too dramatic, but something like that, where it's like just the play of the dream is just like so caught in it. I don't know.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And, we have to cut that off. In one of our practices and several of the practices, we learned that, we become Vajradakini, the indestructible Dakini, the indestructible enlightened skyfarer who is cutting through all the duality, all the confusion and so on. In her right hand, she's holding a hooked knife like this. Can you see this? She's cutting through the roots of all the suffering, the causes of the suffering, the 5 poisons, cutting through them, because where we get to the point is we just say, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to cut through this. I'm going to stop doing this. In her left hand, she's holding a skull cup. And in the skull cup are all the defilements, or as the blood, is all the things that we would think of as disgusting that we do not want to engage in. And she drinks it. She takes all this in and is able to transform that into her enlightenment, cutting through the roots of suffering and taking all the defilements and consuming them and just neutralizing all of that. The essence of Mahamudra, the holy enlightened mind, or the mind of the Buddha. There's three aspects to Mahamudra. Is clarity, emptiness, and unimpededness. And that you should write down, because you'll come to that many times. What is Mahamudra? Mahamudra is clarity. It is emptiness. And it is unimpeded. So the reaction that you had, Matt, and everybody else that had in hearing, what samadhi is. And samadhi is another way of saying the mind of Mahamudra, the mind of the Buddha. It's very profound, yes, and can bring tears to your eyes. It can be like a bone in your heart. But slowly, slowly, you become the embodiment of that. That's why we practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Today was also a very moving session for me. And when you said the vibrations of the universe, and I really felt energy activating my body, and like this vibration becoming stronger. And although I didn't practice very diligently, but today it was then coming when you start reading about samadhi, all this come down, and I felt very deep peace and a lot of emptiness, and all the words resonated very much in their meaning. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. It becomes effortless.
Something that that I have difficulty with a little bit, or reconciling, is with things of the kind of non-conceptual state. I guess it's pointing to the Mahamudra that you're talking about. But then particularly in Tibetan Buddhism as a whole, and I'll just say Tibetan Buddhism in general, and the Vajrayana Buddhism, it's like it's so rich in concepts. To me, like in my understanding, experience, at least more than any other form of Buddhism, where it's just like there's so many concepts and everything is given some kind of representation or concept or symbolism, or it's just like, but then using that as in a way where it's supposed to be like the non-conceptual state, that to me, that's like I don't know, there's something difficult that I get hung up on with that. I don't know if there's anything you could speak to with that, but
to have that moment of clarity, to have that moment of Mahamudra, it comes out of the contemplation. It comes out of the comprehension. It comes out of the mindfulness. It comes out of the understanding of the conscience, of the stability of becoming becoming the samadhi, becoming the true nature. The true nature is peaceful. It's calm. But we make all this stuff out of it. And all these things, these conceptual things that you're talking about, are part of that. So that we can see, we can recognize the way to transcend that. They're all pointing to cutting through. They're all pointing to crossing over. They're all pointing into pacification. They're all pointing to enrichment. They're all pointing to subduing. They're all pointing to magnetizing. And as we are going through our process, we're learning how to work with those things. So in the beginning, now at this point, it seems like a conflict because we haven't had that moment of clarity. We haven't had that moment of spontaneous Mahamudra to be able to say, oh, there it is. This is what we're working for. And it only comes from the practice of meditation. And the practice of meditation are the stages that we've been building on. The four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, the Ngöndro, the shamatha meditation, the calm abiding meditation, bodhicitta, vipassana, then to the deity yoga parts and so on. So we're embarking on that. And that's what we're consumed with. That's what we're seeing. We're not seeing that spontaneous moment of that clarity yet. But it will come. If we're committed, if we're diligent in maintaining a practice, that's the only way to do it. Whether it's Christianity, whether it's Judaism, whether it's Hinduism, whether it's Muslim, whether it's Buddhism, Taoism, any of these are all predicated on the point of having that transformation, that experience from the commitment to that true nature that we have within ourselves. And they all point to that moment. And once you have that moment, it never leaves you. It may get covered up again, but you can pause and say, I know the way there because I've been there. I am there. I just have to remove those defilements, and there it is, that peace. So all this is building up to that. All this is showing us the way to that. And then, like I said before with Vajrayogini, there's just a cutting through. There's just a chopping it off, saying, I'm not going to suffer anymore.
Yeah, and I think for me, a sense of patience too with the unfolding of it. 'Cause for me, I think part of where I get not even stuck, but something like that is I think I don't fully yet understand comprehensively enough of the underlying logic of Vajrayana practice, of tantric practice. So like to me, it's like, well, 'cause I've had some kind of experiences of maybe not the full Mahamudra type of experience, but some experiences where it would never occur to me to like put a form to it or like a deity to it or some, it seems like kind of an odd move in my mind to do that. But I think for me, my point being, I think patience wrong with like building with the practices too, because I think sometimes these questions for me and other questions that I had too are stemming from not completely understanding the logic of the system and practice of tantric Buddhism or the Vajrayana as well. But I think patience being my key point I'm making for me.
Well, you're absolutely right. And have patience. And it takes lifetimes to do this. Lifetimes have gotten you to where you are now. And you've been a student, let's say, for about a year, that we've been talking and everything. And it's going to take a while longer, but it's working at it, and have you seen results? Have you seen benefit, along the way just in this year?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
So this is trusting the Dharma, it's trusting the teacher, it's trusting the scriptures, it's trusting all these things that we've talked about before. There's the three faiths. Remember the three faiths we talked about, trusting in the teacher, trusting in within yourself that you have this yearning for this, and then trusting in the result of, yes, I do see that. I've seen the changes. I haven't completed the changes, but I've seen change, positive change that I've been wanting, and keep working at it. And the teacher reminds you, look, we still have a long way to go. We haven't gotten there yet. It doesn't happen, quite like that. When it's ripe, all of a sudden it is like that. But you got to go through all the process of the cultivation and the ripening to be able to get that moment, that spontaneous moment that the clear light turns on. So I thank you all genuinely, for your being here and doing this. I mean, paying attention to the practice is the most transformative part. Hearing the teachings, reading the sutras is all wonderful, but what you're doing now with these practices, this is where the change comes. Yes, Gunga.
So I had a comment about Matthew's question. There's a Zen saying about not confusing the finger pointing to the moon with the moon. And I think of these practices and this all the symbolism and imagery is it's just fingers, that we follow these. They're leading us in the direction, pointing us in the right direction, but that's not the objective. And at some point, through following the practices, you start to realize the objectives. But you often say it's not conceptual,
Right.
So these are all just conceptual imagery for us to practice with. But in the end, we're gonna be letting all that go. And the other question, which is a more practical one, how many prostrations do you think we did during the practice today?
Well, you might have done close to 100. I would think, if you didn't do 100, maybe 75, something like that. But I managed. I took my clothes off, or not my clothes, but my chuba off because it was binding me up. I couldn't do them in the first part, but I managed to do 25. When we came back after the break, I'm quite a bit out of shape, but. So I would say, for most of everybody who was doing them, I would say, 50 to 100. But you should be keeping count yourself, get yourself some, a way to keep count. Use your beads or use some matchsticks or use some pebbles, get yourself a bunch of pebbles and count them. Each prostration is one pebble, is one matchstick, or is one bead. So keep
I have a
track
deck
of
of
them.
cards. I
What's
have a
that?
deck of cards. I have a deck of cards. I just didn't have them today.
Well, you can use that. Yeah, whatever's easiest, that's fine.
I like that idea of the deck of cards. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess Gunga, like part of where and again, I think for me this goes back to still trying to feel out how one orients themselves in this very specific way of practicing. But sometimes it almost feels to me like the practices themselves are like trying to get you to keep focusing on the finger rather than moon, by like keep giving a form to everything, keep giving a mainly I'm thinking of like kind of the deities and imagining things as like the Dharmakaya or something like that as like as a Buddha form things. But this is, I think, some of it is just particular to my mind, I think, as well, and just figuring some things out.
Well, think of it this way. We've got physical energy, we've got intellectual energy, and we've got spiritual energy. So what these practices are doing is consolidating all that energy into one place. So there's a physical aspect to it, where we recite the prayers, our vocalization of it. The meaning of the vocalization is the intellectualization. And then it's opening up the spiritual. So those two things, the physical and the intellectual, is like the key that fits into that lock. And then what the lock opens up is the heart, and then that's spiritual energy. And then once you experience the spiritual energy, then that melting with the physical and the intellectual is what suspends you, is what holds you. You feel that space, or however you wish to call it, that non-conceptuality, and you can abide in that. So look at it in terms of those three energies. And we're working at it, working at it, working at it.
I have a story about how the practice has kind of come up in my life, but maybe I'll just share that tomorrow night because I see it's already 4 till noon.
All right, very good. Thank you. Yes. Well, we still need to do a dedication. So if we're on page 37 in our book, please. So we're reciting the lineage dedication now, that all the wisdom, all the skillful means that we have gained through this practice of developing our awareness, our participation in the lineage tree. Now we're dedicating all that for the benefit of the enlightenment of all other beings. So page 37, and just in the English. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa. Please mute your microphone, please. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Gampopa, Pagma Drupa, and Lord Drikung. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel in the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the 3 kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikung Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightenment for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Thank you so much. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to send you specifically the teaching of the samadhi, so you can have that. If you want to print it, you can save it on your digital device, whatever. But it is wonderful to have and reflect on.